Now, this one raised a load of eyebrows. Gianluigi Donnarumma expected to leave Paris Saint-Germain this summer after he failed to agree a new deal with the European champions. Multiple clubs are trying to sign him. He has just 1 year left on his PSG contract. I say multiple clubs. You tell us which ones.
Well, look, I don't know for sure which clubs are interested in signing him, but he's arguably the best goalkeeper in the world. Who's better than him? Maybe Alisson at Liverpool at the moment. But there are reports that clubs like Manchester City are interested in signing him, clubs like Manchester United as well, although I think that would be difficult to see happening because he is on big wages. The background to this is that he moved to PSG as a free agent 4 years ago. You remember, he was represented by Mino Raiola at the time. He was the best goalkeeper in the world. PSG, because they weren't paying a transfer fee for him, broke the bank almost, although it's difficult to break the bank when you're PSG, to pay his wages. Now his contract is going to run out next summer. There have been talks about a new deal, but I don't think PSG want to pay the kind of money that perhaps the player feels that he is worth. And also, PSG don't want to be in the situation anymore where players are leaving and free transfers. Remember that whole saga with Kylian Mbappe as well. Once bitten, twice shy. So I think what they've done is gone out and bought a new goalkeeper, Lucas Chevalier, for 40 million euros. They've said to Lucas Chevalier, you're the number one. Donnarumma is not even in the squad for the Super Cup game against Tottenham. All parties are trying to work to find him a new club. But of course, it's going to be very difficult because he's arguably the best goalkeeper in the world and he's on big wages. And he always has the option of just saying, you know what, I'm not going anywhere. I've got this big contract. I like my life in Paris.
Not doing that in the World Cup year.
Well,
not doing it.
I agree with you. How could Italy's number one goalkeeper not play at all in a World Cup year? But he does have that option. But it looks like he's not going to play for PSG again. And it's quite an incredible turnaround because just a few months ago, he was winning the Champions League in spectacular fashion as one of the key players in that brilliant PSG side.
Top goalkeeper. There won't be short of suitors. What about Alejandro Garnacho? Has he got lots of suitors?
Well, it looks like one in particular. Napoli were interested in signing him in January and they had interest in the summer. They've moved on to other targets. But Chelsea, that's been a long-standing interest. There were conversations that took place in January. Things have stepped up now. There's talks ongoing now between Chelsea and Manchester United. And this is a really important deal that United get right because they've been really active in the transfer market in terms of bringing in players. Now the priority is selling players. Alejandro Garnacho would represent pure profit from a profit and sustainability perspective. Previously, they were looking for around 70-60 million pounds. I'm unsure they're going to get that right now because of a number of conditions. The fact he's been frozen out of the first-team picture, he's not training with the first-team squad. I know Ruben Amorim says he'll be reintegrated if there isn't the market value met by a club like Chelsea. But also, Ruben Amorim said that Garnacho was looking for a new type of leader. He's looking for a new type of project. So you'd expect him to depart. Chelsea, yes, they have a number of wide players, but all these different wide players have a specific profile as well. We know Garnacho is a very talented player. Perhaps he needs the right manager and the right club. So I think this is a deal that could happen. Chelsea want to try and sign him before the end of this transfer window. I think he will depart before the end of this transfer window. I think he'll probably head to Chelsea as well. OK, so you think Garnacho on the way out. Are Manchester United going to get Carlos Baleba in? I still think this is a very difficult deal for Manchester United to do for a number of reasons. They've spent a huge amount of money replenishing their front line, but their next priority is signing a central midfielder if they can. The reason why this is difficult is because United do need to prioritise sales. So far, there's not been a huge amount brought in. Yes, there's been the sell-on clause of the likes of Anthony Elanga. They've probably made around £20 million in terms of things like that, but unless they can get £40 million for Rasmus Hojlund, they can get a good deal for Anthony, they can get a good deal for Jadon Sancho, they're not really going to be in a situation where they can really attack this transfer and bring in Carlos Baleba. The other factor is Brighton, they're not going to sell him on the cheap. He's arguably as good as Moises Caicedo was at that stage when Chelsea spent £150 million on him. Maybe not quite as ready as Caicedo, but you can understand the sort of figures that Brighton will be looking at for Carlos Baleba to depart. You wouldn't expect it to be anywhere short of £70-80 million. So for United to go after that, they need to do a lot of work in terms of outgoings over the course of the next few weeks.
Well,
I think it's going to be too problematic.
Are they going to get the famous five? Are they going to close the book on the famous five?
I think Jadon Sancho, they'll find an exit for him. I think it's going to be difficult to do a permanent deal, I think. But Borussia Dortmund are a club that are exploring the conditions of doing another deal to bring him in. I'm not sure whether or not they'll be able to get a permanent transfer for Jadon Sancho. But he's got 1 year left in his contract. There's the option of another year. So United could look to do something like a loan with an obligation to buy. Of course, they'll do a loan, but if there's a permanent element, Anthony, Real Betis want to try to sign him. They're looking at a loan. They don't think they can find the finances to do a permanent deal. But of course, as we've spoken about all transfer window, as we get closer and closer to the deadline, there will need to be compromises when it comes to the player and the club as well. So United may have to take much less money than they wanted in June, what they will take on the 1st of September to get rid of these players. Malacia, slightly different, I think, because of his injury record. I think that's going to be very difficult. Rasmus Hojlund, they can get £40 million for him, then that would represent not too much of a loss. His book value right now is around £45 million. They signed him for around £70 million a couple of years ago. AC Milan in talks. I think if they could get rid of Hojlund and Garnacho for around £80 million and they can get something like £20 million for Anthony, maybe 15 for Sancho, then that would represent good business. United haven't sold well over the course of the last few years. They need to sell well now if they're going to attack the rest of this transfer window.
It is the recruitment that Brighton do, the data-driven recruitment, how widespread their recruitment is, that they lose a player of the calibre of Moises Caicedo. They lined up Carlos Baleba as that replacement straight away, signed from Lille. Took a little bit of time to settle in at Brighton, but last season he was terrific. He's got the physicality to get around the pitch. He's exactly what everybody's talking about, what Manchester United need. Casemiro in the back end of his career. Last season, Christian Eriksen there again, back end of his career. They have got Manuel Ugarte, they have got Kobbie Mainoo as well, but it feels like a younger player who can get around the pitch in that defensive midfield area is what Manchester United, Ruben Amorim, is crying out in his system. And Jeff, you really, like, Bruno Fernandes is still the star man at United, despite the signings they've made. For me, if I see Carlos Baleba in that defensive midfield spot, that frees up Fernandes more to do what Manchester United need Bruno Fernandes to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think bringing him in would be exciting because it gives Fernandes a chance then to link up with all these new players that are coming in, and it just lets him be him. And I think it'd be a perfect fit. Because
we see him drop back, chase
far,
a lot.
yeah.
He does, doesn't he? Does the almost like the dirty work in midfield when you kind of want Bruno Fernandes to be that link, as you said, and the link with Matheus Cunha, Bryan Mbeumo, and now Benjamin Sesko up front. You throw Carlos Baleba in the mix, I don't think I'll be the only one believing. It will be the Manchester United fans believing that they can do something very, very special. But Matt, will they get him this window? Very unlikely. Brighton won't want to sell. Yeah. You mentioned the figure they're talking about. They want in excess of what Chelsea paid for Moises Caicedo. I believe they could get in excess of what Chelsea paid for Moises Caicedo. I rate this player that highly, and he's young. He's only 21 still.
And we should make it clear that Brighton have made it clear that he is absolutely not for sale. They want to keep hold of Carlos Baleba, and it sounds like if anyone wants him, they're going to have to spend big money. Another story we touched on there, Jeff, was Leeds looking at a number of striker options, including Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's a free agent at the moment, having left Everton. Do you think that could be a good fit for both the player and the club?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I was looking at the age he is now. He's younger than I had expected because he's been around so long. He's had a good career. Injuries obviously have hampered him a little bit, but if you can get him fit, he's got Premier League experience and he's still young. I think it'd be brilliant.
He's one of those players. He's been around for such a long time that he's still young. I mean, I remember Donnarumma's one of those. I was looking at him yesterday and I thought, he must be 32. He's 26, Donnarumma, because he's been around since he was as a teenager. You forget some of these guys.
Failure to address set-piece woes will land at the feet of assistant Carlos Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes and Amad, arguably United's two best performers last season, are both best suited to one of the number 10 roles, yet this season Fernandes will play deeper in a midfield two and Amad at right wing-back. For all their upside, both players present tactical dilemmas for United. It is also hard to know who should play alongside Fernandes in midfield given Manuel Ugarte, Casemiro and Kobbie Mainoo have all struggled at times in pre-season. Interest in Brighton's Carlos Baleba comes as no surprise as Amorim seeks greater pace, power and intensity from the two midfielders tasked with anchoring his 3-4-3 system. That aggressive press, which effectively sees United in a 5-2-3 shape, can lead to huge problems if the front three are bypassed easily. Arsenal may exploit that on Sunday by overwhelming Amorim's two-man midfield with the likes of Martin Zubimendi, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard and Miles Lewis-Skelly all moving into central areas. As soon as United's front three are out of the game, the four Arsenal players will only have two midfielders to get through, and one of them, Fernandes, is not in the side for his defensive contribution. So a tweak may well be needed. In Amorim's first game in charge of United, at Ipswich last November, it was clear he was having to direct players to take up the positions he wanted. There was some confusion, he said later, and that confusion is still present in some phases of games. With United out of Europe this season, they will only play one game per week, and that will mean more time on the training pitch for Amorim and his players. This is important not only for integrating new players into the setup but also so Amorim can do more of his detailed tactical walkthroughs. Players are physically moved into specific positions for phases with and without the ball. It is vital his messaging now translates into games. The thing I like the most is now there's going to be no excuses, Diogo Dalot, one of the newly appointed six-man leadership group, said last week. Ultimately, the thing that will define us is what we do on the pitch. I think what is going to bring joy to the fans, joy to ourselves, is winning games.